So if you don't believe that Fox News has basically become an arm of the Russian propaganda ministry, wait until you see this video. Let's talk about it today. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. I'm also a lawyer and an academic, and I'm here to help you stand up to the BS of the MAGA crowd. So former Democrat Tulsi Gabbard has long been seen as an apologist for Russia. In fact, she used to make the Republicans uncomfortable with her advocacy of Vladimir Putin's position. But now that she's left the Democratic Party and basically is working hard to establish herself as a Fox News talking head, that's all changed. And probably the main person she's found who's kind of a true believer in the Russian cause like her is Tucker Carlson. As you can see, you have Tucker Carlson along with Tulsi Gabbard, as well as others who say that we have more common cause with Russia than we do with Ukraine. And just to see how twisted their logic is to make that argument, check out this video over here.
So here's a story that's been kind of forgotten, but Victoria Nuland, who was the driving force behind the war in Ukraine, helped start...
Whoa. Victoria Nuland is the driving force behind the war in Ukraine? I thought that was Vladimir Putin who invaded Ukraine that caused the war in Ukraine. Okay, let's keep watching.
Start the war in Ukraine. In January...
Oh, she helped start the war in Ukraine. Okay, again, I thought that was Vladimir Putin who actually invaded Ukraine. You know, people forget that. They make it seem like somehow Russia was invaded or Russia's the victim here. Russia never had to go into Ukraine. Russia never had to do this. Russia never had to start this. And the way that they could end it today is just by leaving and going back to their country. But the arguments that Putin has made has been essentially that he's defending Russian interests against encroachment by the West, and that this is all being essentially put together by the United States, which that's exactly what Tucker Carlson is saying here. Let's keep watching.
He threatened to blow up the Nord Stream pipelines.
Wait, threatened to blow up the Nord Stream pipelines? Let's keep watching and see what she actually says.
That Russia couldn't send gas to Europe. Remember this?
I want to be clear with you today. If Russia invades Ukraine, one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward.
Okay, now she's not saying that they're going to blow up Nord Stream 2. She's not even saying that it will get destroyed. What she is saying is that Nord Stream 2, which, just for the record, has never been in operation. They've never gotten the proper licenses to be able to pump gas from Russia to Germany as it's intended to. She's saying that we, along with our allies, will stand against it getting its final permits, which is exactly what's happened. There's never any mention about blowing it up or destroying it. Let's keep watching.
So then in September, somebody blew up the pipelines, and that was the biggest man-made environmental disaster in history.
Yes, somebody blew up the pipelines. Now, there are all sorts of claims on to one side or another as to which did it. You know, we claim the Russians did it. The Russians claim that the Ukrainians did it, which is actually kind of impossible because you have to remember, this is a pipeline deep below the sea, hundreds of meters below the surface of the ocean. So it's not like some guy can just go out in a motorboat and drop a bomb onto it. This would have required pretty sophisticated technology. The Russians, of course, then changed their tune and said that it was the British. You know, I'm not going to engage in any kind of speculation. Personally, I believe the Russians did it, although it does seem kind of odd that they would do it, but nothing would surprise me with the Russians at this point. But one thing that is clear is it was already stopped when it was blown up, and that's, again, what's been forgotten. That as of February, the Germans had restated their position that they were not going to grant the necessary permits to the Nord Stream 2 pipeline to continue pumping. Let's keep watching.
If you're worried about climate change, you should be in tears because of the amount of carbon that emitted into the atmosphere. So it was pretty obvious to us that
I think a lot of people are upset about this. Let's keep watching.
The Biden administration was involved in this. We said that, and we were immediately denounced by the entire left and the entire media as agents of Putin.
Gee, I wonder. Let's keep watching.
Why are they doing that? And by the way, when we actually join this war in force, what will they do to anyone who objects to it? Ooh, they're going to punish people. You watch.
Nobody's joining this war in force. There will not be American boots on the ground. The United States would not do that again, believe me. At least not a Democratic administration. Let's keep watching.
But with this in mind, we were a little bit surprised to see Toria Nuland essentially admit last week that she did it. Watch this.
Senator Cruz, like you, I am, and I think the administration is very gratified to know that Nord Stream 2 is now, as you like to say, a hunk of metal at the bottom of the sea.
That's not an admission. That's just saying we're glad that it happened. There was no admission that, oh, yes, we did it, or, oh, yes, we made an effort to do it. That's absurd. Well, let's keep watching, though.
Oh, she's excited about it. When it happened, they said, we're upset about it. We have no idea who did this. And if you think we had a hand in it, you're Putin. What are we watching here? Tulsi Gabbard is a former presidential candidate. She joins us tonight. Congresswoman, thank you so much for coming on. So now they're basically admitting it and nobody is saying anything? Why?
Again, let's clarify. That's not any kind of an admission. And, you know, he might have a little more credibility if he hadn't previously said that this woman was responsible for starting the war in Ukraine when Vladimir Putin clearly is the one who invaded Ukraine. Let's keep watching.
I think there's two really important things for the American people to take away from what you have just outlined here. Number one is that statement from Victoria Nuland just exposed her and the administration's truth, which is that they have been lying to us all along about this. There's no way the United...
That's not at all what was said. I just can't even believe this. The people who've been lying all along are them. They're the ones who said that Victoria Nuland started the war in Ukraine. Let's keep watching.
The United States was not either involved or knew about this or at the very minimum approved it.
That's not anything that was said. Let's keep watching.
So they've been lying to us. They've been deceiving us, saying, hey, look, the United States had absolutely nothing to do with this, while also trying to sell us the absurd lie that, well, of course, Russia somehow bombed their own, exploded their own energy infrastructure to hurt their own economic interest. That it just shows how
they didn't hurt their own economic interest because of the fact that they weren't pumping gas through the pipeline anyway. The Germans weren't allowing it. So in theory, and again, I do think this seems odd, but again, nothing the Russians do surprises me. The Russians did it so that they could have something to blame on everybody else. But you have to remember, there was no need for us to do it. They weren't pumping gas through it anyway. Let's keep watching.
Stupid they think we are that we would buy such an absurd argument. Their lying to us shows us yet again that we can't trust anything that they're saying. We can't trust any of these narratives that are coming out of the mainstream media.
Says the person who said that Victoria Nuland started the war in Ukraine. Let's keep watching.
The second thing that's important to recognize that is very dangerous is that they are setting a precedent through what her statements are and their actions that now that it is acceptable to go and essentially use sabotage against infrastructure as an acceptable.
Wait a minute! Number one, that's not what she said. And number two, this is at the same time as the Russians are constantly blowing up with drones civilian energy infrastructure across Ukraine. And they're claiming that we're the ones saying it's okay to be blowing up infrastructure? Let's keep watching.
Strategy. So we have to look at our own vulnerabilities in this area, whether it's the undersea cables, our communication systems, our financial systems, our own power grid and energy system vulnerabilities. The list goes on and on.
You see, they wouldn't want to do anything like that. They wouldn't want to attack that because then that would actually draw the United States into the war, which, by the way, is not what Russia wants. For all the fighting that you've seen going on in Russia, I think it's pretty clear the United States would make pretty quick business of the Russians in Ukraine. Let's keep watching.
The argument is very clear. Hey, look, if it's okay to go after and bomb and destroy Russia's oil and gas infrastructure, why would it not then be okay for someone else to come and attack our own, exploit?
But Russia has been doing that against Ukraine. I just can't believe the absurdity of these people where they can say these things with a straight face. Let's keep watching.
Our own vulnerabilities here. So this is the position that the warmongers in Washington have put us into. We, the
The warmongers in Washington, let me just remind you, Joe Biden is the one who got us out of Afghanistan. And he's also the one who has kept us out of Ukraine. This is the Russian line that is being echoed, that basically poor Russia is defending itself against an overly aggressive West that's basically being manipulated by the United States. And you're seeing it right here on Fox News. Let's keep watching.
American people, all in the name of saying, hey, we're doing this to protect you. We're trying to protect democracy, but their actions are making us less safe and undermining our democracy, because we cannot have a functioning democracy if we can't trust what our leaders are telling us.
Yes, that's right. I agree with you that you need to be able to trust, at least to a certain extent, what the leaders say. But that's why you have a free media that can question them, like you're doing, by the way. But I would hope that people watching this would be able to see just how ridiculous it is, at the same time as they're claiming, number one, that Victoria Nuland started the war in Ukraine, and number two, that the Russians haven't been bombing the crap out of Ukrainian infrastructure. Let's keep watching.
Well, and they don't care about democracy at all. But mark my word.
No.
They don't care about democracy at all, but yet Tucker Carlson does, who's a fan of Vladimir Putin's and Viktor Orban's in Hungary. Let's keep watching.
Anyone who calls them out on their lies have already denounced you, for example, as a disloyal American who serves our country in uniform. If this war accelerates, they will go after you and everyone else who's called them on their lies.
That's where it's up to the American people. We're the only, like, where is their hope? The hope lies in our hands to fire, get rid of throw these lying, warmongering politicians out of office, and stop listening to the crap the mainstream media and big tech is putting out, and take a stand for the truth for our country and for our security and freedom.
Wow, boy, you know, it's really something watching Fox News. Never ceases to amaze me. But I actually agree with the conclusion there. It is up to the Americans to make it clear that we don't want to be fighting any more foreign wars that are wars of choice, the way Iraq and Afghanistan were. I mean, many of these same people who are suddenly cheerleaders for Vladimir Putin were also cheerleaders for George W. Bush when he was going in to invade Iraq. If anything, I think Joe Biden deserves a lot of credit for keeping us out of a world war in this, what is really the most aggressive action since World War II. Well, if you want to see another video where I point out how Fox News actually was fighting for polluters, if you can believe it, check out this video over here. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.